I was born here in Killarney, in the district hospital in Killarney on the 4th of February. My mother was Mary and my father was John. He was known as Johnny Michael. And we had a farm. They had owned a farm. And there was three brothers and three sisters. Unfortunately, one brother has passed away. He died in 2021, Timmy, who I was very, very close to, and we were kind of always together. Timmy was 6'2" and I was 5'7", 6 or 7, I suppose. I always had a big bond for him. It was just the way he was big and strong. I suppose I was protected by him. He used to always take me doing farming, even that I wasn't able to do a big pile, but he used to always bring me along. And then when we grew up, anytime he'd be coming into town for a few drinks or anything, he'd always ring me. He wasn't a very big drinking man. I'd drink way more than him. But anyway, I think of him every whole day, and I wish he was here, and that's it. But sure, look, what can you do? I suppose going back to when I was born, it was diagnosed right away by the doctor with the naked eye at the time that I had a disease called arthrogryphosis. Arthrogryphosis is a thing that you can only develop in the womb. And when you're born with this ailment, it stays with you. It really never gets better, but the only way they can prevent it from getting worse is continuous surgery and operations. So it affected me from really the top of my hip, very close into my pelvis on the right side, down to my big toe. I had something in my knee as well, and I had what they called a club foot. I was only 8 days old when I went to the orthopaedic hospital in Granabroher in Cork City. It was I was in the children's wing of it, which was Block 3. I gave 9 months, my first 9 months there then. I came home for 4 to 5 months, and I had to go back up again, and I gave 2 years in the orthopaedic without ever coming out of it. I remember being in the hospital. I remember a lot of time crying, and they had their own modern way of trying to put my hip back into place, which you were up in a kind of a frame, and your two legs were spread out as much as possible, and they were strapped. It always reminds me of, if you were watching films, if someone was going for the electric chair or something there, it reminds me of that. But I remember crying, and this nurse came in. I suppose I had her head wrecked, and she kind of gave out, and I got worse. And this man came in, and he gave me a strawberry. And it was the first thing I ever remember eating in my life. And I stopped crying. And later on, as life went on, it was actually his wife that was a nurse, and they took an awful liking to me. And this man his name was Des Scannell, no relation of mine whatsoever. And his wife was Mary Scannell, a very glamorous lady, very pretty lady, and they got married. And the history that I learned about them is that they were able to have no children at that time. Obviously, things have moved on in a bigger way. And they took an awful shining and a liking to me. They even visited my mother and father several times. But the long and the short of it, to make a huge story short, is that they wanted to adopt me. But my mother and father wouldn't hear of it anyway. I suppose I was too nice, even though I was crass and awkward. I was still too nice. And but they kept pursuing it, but eventually they gave up anyway. But they left in great terms, like there was, but they used to take me out to outings, and I used to go to the seaside and all that. And when of course when I got crabbeting and a bit mentally, I'd come home and I'd be telling all my mother, brothers and sisters then where I was. Oh, I went to the seaside and I had a bucket and shovel and castle and shit. The only sand that was at home was a heap of gravel, and they used to buy me lovely clothes and everything. They were very, very nice to me, like they made my life in hospital very, very comfortable. But of course, I had another good clout then in the hospital is that the matron of the hospital of Block 3 was from Kerry, Milltown. Her name was Bridie Doyle. But myself and Bridie got on very well because I was there for so long and I had multitude of operations down through the years of serious operations. One operation was actually done through the guidance of the Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, through, would you believe it, photographs. They just post them over. The orthopaedic surgeon, it'd write back. That's how slow the operation went. Well, to get the how to do the operation. And I should be put standing up in a table, and to see they should be taking photographs of me, and I should hate it really because I really no clothes on because I wanted to see the curve of my hips and my foot and everything, and I should be crying and they should be trying to give me sweets and just stay still for the camera. The cameras weren't as good, and I was only 4 and 5. I used to be very cross with them. Like they said that I was very nice, but when I was still very cross if I was made cross. I learned after in Kappa Hospital that it was one of the first that was really, really done and worked out well. It stopped my foot from curling totally around so that at least I was able to walk with it flat on the ground. I spent 3 Christmases there. They were absolutely brilliant Christmases. Santi came to us and there was ties. Sure, I got ties from nurses, and I think a big tie store down in Cork City used to bring ties to everyone, and the nurses used to go out of their way and we used to have sweets every whole day, and it was a big festival of a thing because there was 20 or 30 children there. Santi then used to come the following morning and bring more ties, so they were really, really nice, and that was one thing that I used to have in my cap or my feather for my brothers and sisters at home, like about the way I met Santi and all the ties, and I'd be showing it them to them. So they wouldn't be after getting half of what I'd be after getting, and I'd say maybe at stages they'd say like, could I go to Block 3 as they call it as well. But anyway, that was it. But my Christmases were very, very enjoyable there, and they were certainly made enjoyable by Des and Mary Scannell and Sister Bridie Doyle. The first remembrance I have of coming home from the hospital was with my mother. It was a very close on Christmas Eve, and we came home on the bus. Now I always remember being up in her Gwal, and I had this big white jumper. I don't know, I thought it was huge. It was warm anyway, and it was lovely. And the bus came to our local village, which is Barradove, and then there was what they call a hackney car that time, and he brought me up to my house, and all the rest of us were around, and it was a daunting experience for me at the time because it was a big farmhouse and an old house, and it was rough and tumble with farming and everything, but I wasn't long settling in anyway, and that was okay. Another stage when I came home then, after the 2 years, I didn't know any one of my brothers or sisters, and my father and mother lined them up And my oldest brother was Melky, and he put him first. He said, what's his name? And I didn't know it. Next thing, John, and Lord Timmy, then Lord de Mercy in him, and then Anne, my sister, and I didn't know. And there was two little babies inside in two small little carrier cots, so kind of little cribs of things. And he said, who are they? And I said, they are Anne's dolls. They were kind of asleep and they were kind of cuddled up. They were, so I thought they were two dolls at that time. But I didn't. I hadn't long getting to know after a while about the dolls. But that was it. And the following day, anyway, I always remember my father put me up on his shoulders anyway, and I went to see all the cows and the horse and the cattle down the back of the house. There was you down into the little vegetable garden, and then you go on into the farm below it. And so amazed with the cattle and everything that the cows, they were looking at me, and I was I was trying to touch them and all this, but sure, they wasn't going near me, alright. But that was the memories I have of it. My brothers and sisters, they'd warm up too. They'd be very nice to you for the first week or two, and then after a while they get sick of you and were treated like the rest. They got used to me. I wasn't long. It didn't take me long to accustomize myself to the way of living in rural Kerry. I remember my first day going to school. I went to Raheen National School. It's about a mile away from my house, and I walked every day to school. Now, my brothers and sisters were able to go through the fields and the bog and cross a river, but because of my disability, it would have been very difficult because I'd be wearing a special boot and what they call a caliper at the time. Back to going to school, I remember it very well. It was my first day there, and all my brothers and sisters wanted to come with me because I'd say I was very outspoken. I was never shy. You see, I was a chatty kind of a young fella. I got 5 pence from one teacher and 2 pence from another teacher, and I think 10 pence then from the headmaster. School was okay for me. I liked it and I didn't like it, like every child was. I was well able to play around in the schoolyard, and the one thing that I used to always remember that I used to be in goal. They used to put me in goal, playing football, and the only one thing that whenever a penalty was being taken, I suppose I had such good power in my left leg from carrying my right leg. I was really a good person to take a penalty because it was bulletproof or bullet shot like. Well, I always said I scored anyway. During my school days in the national school, I was still regularly visiting the orthopedic hospital. I'd usually say maybe 2 to 3 months. I used to be spending a lot of time in hospital, yeah. Secondary school, then I went to what they call the Tech in Killarney, and I spent 2.5 years there. I went to hospital after the 2.5 years, and I had a big operation, so I really dwindled out of secondary school after 2.5 years. After school, then I recovered at home, and then I got a job in Mackie Shays in Main Street in Killarney. I loved that because I was with people all the time. They gave me a job in the counter. I was dealing with lots and lots of people. I was, I suppose, a kind of a funny man to be employed, really, because when I went into MD O'Shea's, I had this big, horrific cage on my leg, which was called the Elizabeth frame. When this device came off my leg, then I kind of got good at walking and around the place, and I used to be on the floor. So I was between the floor and the checkout all the time. But I gave very close on 20 years in Mackie Shays. They had good time for me, and I made a lot of friends in Mackie's. In 2002, I got my own house from Clúd in Holy Cross Gardens, and that was really the total independence for myself. I was able to live on my own. In 2013, I got transferred from Holy Cross Gardens to Oakwood, where I live now. My biggest success in life, really, I suppose, was three things. I suppose getting my own house from Clúd, which I'm thankful of, working for Mackey's, and I suppose buying my own car, because my car has to be adapted because of the prosthetic leg. And even before it was amputated, it still had to be adapted because my leg was so bad. I think they are the three big achievements that I have done, really. Living on my own and in my own home, really. The best attitude in life really is to respect people and to always think positive in you. And there's always someone worse. There's always someone worse, and there's everything can be sorted if you give it enough of time. Always think forward. I'm very, very grateful for Clúd and the association, really, and they can be very proud of what they've done for the likes of me and more people like me that are vulnerable and people that are, I suppose, deprived of, I suppose, in one way, I suppose, if you look at my history, I was probably deprived of maybe buying a farm and maybe buying my own house because of my disability, really. Clúd can be very proud, like, of the likes of me and more and thousands more like me that really give them a home and give them independence.